The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The best ideas are free with Ben Young from bwaggy.com.
bwaggy.com. It's our final chat for 2010.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it's a good time, I suppose, to take a look at the week that the year that was, some of the trends that have gone on, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was just kind of sitting down earlier this morning, jotting down some notes on my observations in New Zealand. I think one of the key things is probably we've finally seen eco products take off.
Yeah, but we've known about eco products for a long time.
Yeah, we
haven't
have. So I guess it's just reached a tipping point where people have started going, why am I mucking about with this? We should just be buying it.
Yeah.
And we've definitely seen the eco store products in supermarkets more.
Yep.
And they did try and push into supermarkets a number of years ago, and it didn't really take off then. But now they're in there, they're consistently selling well. It's great to see. Also, another thing this year, which I think is taking off, online shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Especially during the recession, people's discretionary income was squeezed, so they wanted to research more on what they were buying. So people are definitely purchasing online a lot more. We've seen the rise of deal sites.
Yeah.
We already had a couple, but they've really taken off this year, like Grab One, and we've got the regulars like One Day, First In, and all that. And there's another one that's local, Living Social. And
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. So we've really seen this this trend towards getting the most bang for your buck.
Mm.
And some of the difficulty has been, and I remember there was a bit of controversy on the Herald a few months ago with the online shopping, is people were complaining about the taxes they charge when they do a lot of purchases. And retailers were complaining, saying you shouldn't be shopping offshore. But the reality is that it's much easier to shop online. Often you can research for several hours, get what you want. But also, when I'm on Facebook or on the internet, other stores all around the world are marketing to me.
They are, aren't they?
And
yeah.
so if you have a local presence, you do have an advantage that you are local. But if I'm not seeing you in the places that I play in online, you know, how am I supposed to put you into my consideration set? Often I'm finding people that didn't even realise that there was a specialty shop locally, because they're not even aware of it when they start researching.
Do you think there's room for a local version now of something like Amazon? Because I think we tried it in New Zealand years ago. I think there was one, that Flying Pig, and then there was a telecom version. I think it was Ferret or something. Didn't really work out, perhaps because it was all a little bit too early. Yeah.
Well, I believe the Warehouse is trying to get into that space, a lot more online e-commerce. I think the reality is New Zealand doesn't have the scale.
Yeah.
I think the only way it could really work is if someone set it up in Australia, in terms of, because there's the logistics, efficiency in those logistics and getting the best price. I think because of the scale of New Zealand and the amount of online purchasing, it's probably still early, maybe another 5-7 years. And then I think it'll be quite applicable. Yeah, it should be quite interesting.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone a couple of weeks back, and they were complaining about book prices in New Zealand. And I was saying if they buy them off Amazon, they're cheaper, but then they pay through the nose for shipping.
Yeah.
I said, but when you're in New Zealand, shipping is a large component of just about everything we buy. The TVs aren't made here, laptops aren't made here. The books that we buy, they have to be shipped from somewhere. So the reality is, when we're in New Zealand, shipping is a large cost for anything that we do buy.
That's why...
Well, it's got to travel so far.
Yeah.
But we forget that. We just assume, iPod, it should be fine here.
But then, you were saying last time you were in buying a digital version of the book. Of course, there is no shipping involved.
Yeah, so Nathaniel, our digital producer, was saying, he's an American Kiwi, and he was saying his family sent him an Amazon gift card. I was like, that's cool, but shipping's going to kill, most of what you've got. And he said, no, Ben, Kindle.
Yeah.
So he can just buy some digital goods, and he doesn't pay any shipping for that.
Yeah.
So he gets the same book. But that's just about maximising value.
It does, yeah.
Interesting. And something else that we've been doing at Young and Shannon, which has kept us busy, is we wanted to do a bit of a 2010 digital leadership survey, given we play in the online space. And so what we did is we asked 150 New Zealand CEOs and marketing managers about their organisations and their intentions and commitments next year. What are they looking at? How are they doing? And
good response?
Yeah, that was a good response for New Zealand. not a huge amount of company
Yeah.
of a decent size. What we wanted to do is look at New Zealand versus the States and other countries around the world. At the start of the year when we had a look, digital spending was 21 or 22% as a portion of advertising budget in New Zealand.
So that's versus, say, newspaper, magazines, and TV and radio. Okay.
Yeah. So that was the average.
Yeah.
And in New Zealand, that was 14%. But New Zealand was growing faster. And so we were keen to see, well, what's it going to look like for next year? So I'll just read out some of the results. 94% of businesses understood the importance of digital marketing channels, whereas in the States, a recent survey said that only 78% thought digital was important to the organisation. And that kind of makes sense to me. New Zealand has increasingly better broadband penetration rates. We have one of the best rates per capita of people on Facebook, and we have a decent amount of online hours. So that kind of makes sense, that businesses recognise that it is important to them. Only 2/3 of businesses have heavily committed or invested in interactive marketing, and 2/3 use technology to underpin their customer experience in terms of reinforcing it, providing extra service. And the key gap for the people that aren't investing in it was 56% said lack of senior management understanding digital, which I'd say that's fairly commonplace.
Yeah.
Lack of internal resource, that's a given, given the last couple of years, and insufficient funding. But something interesting which...
So those big roadblocks, are they big stumbling blocks?
It's always a stumbling block for new technology. Firstly, lack of understanding. If there's lack of understanding, people aren't going to be prepared to put budget to it. And insufficient funding is something that every business is going to deal with. If it's important at a CEO level, the rest of the company is going to fall into place, and the budget's going to follow as well. So it is about, and this is why we surveyed CEOs, it is about understanding what their thoughts are for the next year and how can we educate them as to how digital can help them. A couple of other things which Duncan likes. 58% were focused on customer acquisition with digital, whereas 11% were focused on customer retention.
Okay.
And Duncan always mentions the adage that it's much cheaper to look after your current customers and get more new business out of them. So there's actually a lot of difference there. 58% looking at new customers, but only 11% looking at using digital to look after your existing customers.
Is that a good? So that's a good thing. I mean,
no, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? Digital, it's a great way to look after your existing customers.
Yeah.
Keep talking to them, and bring them on board.
Yeah.
Like one study looked at Facebook fans, and they said the fact that someone is a Facebook fan and they engage with your brand and are willing to accept your messages into their personal life, it helps identify them as a loyal user. And when they did some surveys in the States, Facebook fans out of your customer group spent on average 78% more than your average customer. So that's just one small way of identifying and looking after your most loyal customers.
Or do they just do businesses just see that as easy now? Now that you've got that person as a fan on Facebook, the maintenance is quite easy. Is that what they're saying? Perhaps in that 11%.
No, it's saying they're not focused on it, so they're not even looking at how they can use it. Most people are focusing on how can we acquire new customers via blogging or search engine optimization or email marketing. Whereas you can equally use these tools to look after your customers. Some smart little things are autoresponders. Let's say you buy a new car and you collect their email address. Do a series of autoresponders over 6 months. Like after 3 months, go, how's the car coming along? Are there any issues? Here's our service address. Your car's still under warranty. After 6 months, say, look, it's time for a new warrant. You can bring it into us. We'll do it for this. Or after a year, send them a note saying, congratulations, you've had a year in your new Ford Fiesta, let's say. How are you enjoying it? Do you want to upgrade or vice versa? So there's something really simple that you can do like that helps retain your existing customers, but helps educate
Keeping
them.
that contact,
Yeah, so there's a lot of potential there, a lot. And the top 3 spend increases for next year, and I'll mention these and just one other real quick. People plan to increase spending 72.1% of people plan to increase their spending on website design and development, which is good. I'm sure a lot of businesses have let a few design things slide over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But that's not good. You need to keep on top of that. 70.1% plan to increase their spend in social media, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
And online video, 67.3%. Which actually
see that as a growth area.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. We were talking at our Christmas podcast. We see online video in New Zealand as a huge growth area. We've seen Air New Zealand essentially lead the way for consumer brands. So I think a lot of other parties are going to follow suit. But one interesting thing was 50% of companies plan to spend more on PR next year, which is cool. And I'm guessing that with a lot of this online social media, people are seeing, their customers talking. So now they need to kind of, work with that, either with it or against it.
Yeah.
So I think the transparency of online has almost agitated the problem, and companies are going, well, actually, maybe we do have a PR problem, or we need to have PR to help look after us.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I think that's a great way for digital working with offline together.
2011 sounds like it's going to be an exciting year.
Yeah, it's
for
going to be
digital
awesome.
marketing. And of course, you, Ben, are from Young and Shand.
Yeah.
The website for Young and Shand?
Just youngshand.com.
Youngshand.com. And of course, we'll see your personal blog at bwaggy.com as well. And don't forget, if you want to go and review everything that we've talked about in the past year, you can always go and go to the YouTube channel for the Radio Wammo show.
I think there's 40 or 50 there. There's quite a lot now.
Yeah, certainly is.
Cool.
Thanks, Ben. We'll see you in 2011. Have a great
Catch
Christmas.
you in 2011. Cheers.